Welcome back to Aw Ship, a team building focused podcast. This is my sixth podcast as I launch into this new world. I'm here to talk through and talk about a very special and important subject for all companies or businesses, large or small. Building a better team that has the customer in mind. This is missing in everyday life. There are companies large and small that have forgotten who is paying their salaries or the bills of the company that individual works for. You see this every day. Trust me. Thank you to everybody that has returned and given me feedback. Keep it up and thank you. The feedback is welcome. That's the only way that I'm going to be able to make this more enjoyable and usable by you, the watcher or listener. This podcast is to expand on two philosophies that I have weaved into the DNA of my operations team at Premier Logistics Partners. Raving Fans, a book authored by Ken Blanchard, and the Fish Philosophy, based on the working environment at Pike's Place Fish Market in Seattle, Washington. RA Enterprises was birthed on the notion that everybody can learn and everybody can help. Anybody and everybody. Over the years, as my Director of Operations position at Premier Logistics Partners, I've learned and seen how a good team can impact others. This is my way of being able to give back, to serve, and to help to cultivate positive atmospheres in other businesses and companies. At the same time, it's going to make me a better leader, a better husband, and a better father. So thank you again. Yes, I'm in the freight industry, and a lot of this subject matter will have a broker or 3PL subject lens and wording. But any company, any industry, big or small, should strive to build a good team to support their customers and clients. Ripped from headlines this week. So I got two. First one is how New Jersey has now passed a law that is requiring trucking companies to carry $1.5 million of minimal liability coverage. And again, if you don't know what liability coverage is, it's basically coverage that protects, not really protects, but gives the ability for payouts against bodily injury, death, and property damage when something happens. We all have that in our auto insurance on an individual basis. But companies, especially trucking companies, have to have that as well. This goes into effect on July 1st of this year, 2024. Now, some people out there would be like, well, why is that news? Oh, but it is. Because in most places in the country, there are a few other areas in the country that have a larger liability coverage minimal than what is prescribed by law. The law says by the FMCSA standard that $750K must be covered for minimal coverage. Now, what's the true impact of this, you might ask? Why am I talking about this on this podcast, since it's about teams? Well, headlines can be anything. But for me and you, as consumers, we've seen inflation go out of control. Our items are so expensive right now. Most of us are struggling to pay our bills, to put food in our mouths, to put gas in our gas tanks. The impact of this on an average carrier that operates in New Jersey, it will hit their bottom line by about $20,000 to $40,000 for that year. Now, most trucking companies, that's going to basically mean that they're going to have a 20% increase to go from that $750K that the federal government says is a minimal to the new $1.5 million coverage policy that they have to have. It costs more. We all know it costs more to insure. That's going to hit us. Us as the consumer. We're the one that's going to pay for it. Now, you might have a shipment that goes from Atlanta, Georgia to Chicago, Illinois that has nothing to do with New Jersey. But if that carrier hauling that freight operates in the state of New Jersey, their overall insurance policy is going to be larger. They're going to pass that down to us. We are seeing that across the board in different areas of our lives. I mean, if you live in New Jersey, I'm sorry, but Something's got to change. That's just not good. That's just like some of the laws and regs that are out in California. There are a lot of carriers that will not operate in California because of the regulations. So again, it makes our costs go up as consumers. Second thing I want to talk about, ripped from headlines, is good old pastime that most Americans have: baseball. Pitchers and catchers reported this week, Valentine's Day, of all days, right? They're going to go tossing around a little leather ball, which is awesome because it's the American pastime, and I love baseball. But if you're a betting man, or not a betting man, a betting woman, or just want to know who's the favorite this year, well, unfortunately, it's the guys from California again. The Dodgers are the favorites to win the World Series, followed by my hometown Atlanta Braves. I do have a Braves hat up there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I did grow up here in Atlanta, and the Braves are my team, and they had a wonderful run during the 90s, and got a hell of a team. And again, third, closest behind the Braves, are the Houston Astros to make it to the World Series and win. So again, those are sort of my two ripped from headlines. I'm doing something a little different this week with this podcast. I'm going to freeform a lot of this. I did a little research, but I decided to take the script out. Let's turn this on our head and sort of just freeform this conversation. But I want to talk about teams and how the makeup of teams can influence and help your organization. So let's start with teams. Let's look at the definition of a team. A number of persons associated together in work and activity. So what does that mean? Well, it's made up of people. It's made up of individuals that are there for a common goal, to work or to do some type of activity. Now, when we look at that in a group setting of sports, that's the activity. Baseball is an activity. Football is an activity. Basketball is an activity. Hockey is an activity. You're a member of a team to get something done together, to reach a common goal, to win the game, to win the trophy, to win the championship. It's people paired together for a common goal. When you think of teams, you think of winners, losers. You think of champions, think of non-champions. But even it goes to as far as just thinking about, successes in business, on how different people can do different things. And baseball is a prime example of that. Baseball has a pitcher, has a catcher, infield and outfield. All those people play both offense and defense. Football is one of those sports that the team is siloed, a lot like a business, if you sit back and think about football for a minute. Because you have offense, defense, and special teams. All three of those teams have to work together to win a game. Baseball, your position players, your pitchers, your catchers, your infielders, your outfielders, are offense and defense. Basketball, offense and defense. Hockey, offense and defense. Soccer, offense and defense. A lot like, again, your company. So you have operations, sales, accounting, and, you might have IT, you might have, other teams or other groups. So they're siloed a lot like football. Baseball is one of those things that there's a lot more team support. What does that mean? So that's sort of where I'm going to jump into next. Team support can be defined like this: a person who is seeking an appointment to a team to provide support. Could have soft or hard skills. Now, think about that. Right? Support. Well, you got a bullpen? You got pitch hitters. They come into the team or they come into the game to support what is going on in the moment. A reliever comes out of the bullpen to do one of two things: get the game back on track or keep the game going on track to close it out. A pitch hitter, same thing. They're going to come in and they're going to try and get the team back on track or help to solidify shutting it down and getting the win. Now, in golf, it's a little different, right? Yes, go ahead and make fun of me. I use yellow golf balls. I'm old. Can't see. But this is a Titleist Pro V1. It's the golf ball that I use. There's a lot of support behind this golf ball. For a long, long time, golfers have been paired with caddies. Caddies and golfers together work as a team to get to the end of the round, and after 4 rounds, to win the tournament. That's your support team up until probably about 30 years ago, 20 years ago, where now you have an exercise regimen, a swing coach, a mental coach, a dietary coach, again, your caddy, marketing, etc. So there's a different level of support that is around a golfer. Now, of course, I'm not that good, so at the end of the day, it's just me because I'm an amateur. But Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, Rory, Justin Spieth, Justin Thomas. I said Jordan Spieth, not Justin Spieth. My gosh, there I go. But again, a different level of support. Baseball is just a little different. The support looks different. But each team member is there for a reason. And you have to think about that as you go through your team. Look at your team. Look at the players on your bench. Who can you plug in at different times? Maybe somebody is more of a night owl. Well, maybe they should be shifted into a later shift. Maybe somebody is a little bit better talking, numbers. Put them in a different seat. Support goes round and round in businesses. Doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur that works for yourself, you still have a team behind you. You have a team that more than likely you've hired or you're contracted with Intuit QuickBooks to do your accounting. There's a team that works for Intuit that makes sure that the accounting software runs very smooth. So you, as a small business, input your information in and are able to invoice your clients and receive payments. That's still support. And I think people get wrapped up into thinking support is always being attached to certain departments. Support goes across all boundaries in all aspects of a business. But what makes up that support team? That brings me sort of subject number 3, team dynamics. Now that can be defined as patterns of communication, cooperation, collaboration that transpire within a team. So think about that when we talk about baseball. Nothing starts in a baseball inning until a pitcher pitches the ball to a catcher. That catcher's sort of the communicator to the pitcher on which pitch to pitch. Is it going to be a split finger fastball, across the seams fastball, a curveball, a breaking ball, or even a knuckleball, which I can't do, but one of the best knuckleballers in the business was Phil Niekro. That catcher has to be able to communicate. Now, also, in the modern game of baseball, that catcher's he's helping the infield. He's helping the outfield. Now, shifts aren't really allowed as much as they were a few years ago. Baseball's changed their rules. But that communication and collaboration of everybody on the field to make sure that if the pitcher throws the ball and it doesn't make it to the catcher's mitt, it is hit by the batter, it puts everybody in the position that they need to go to. The other side of that, in a business, communications, cooperation, collaboration. It goes between your different departments. You might have somebody in accounting that needs to talk to support, or vice versa. Well, you as a business need to make sure that you have the right avenues to make sure that communication, that information flows up and then over to that other department. Depending on the size of your business, depending if you're big or small, that looks a little different. But ultimately, your two teams have to work together. They have to cooperate. They have to communicate. There might be some collaboration. You might have to have a meeting out of it where a representative of the both departments sit in a room and talk about it. But you have to get down to the nitty-gritty of it. If you don't, you will have just areas of your business that will suffer. Team chemistry, sort of the fourth point here. Team chemistry is, or could be defined, of the composition of a team and a relationship among its members. So this one's a little different. You have to interact with each other. But since we're on the baseball kick, let's talk about baseball for a minute. The pitcher and the catcher have to have really good chemistry. In football, well, that's the center and the quarterback, wide receivers and running backs. Basketball, I don't know a whole much about it, but I would say that your point guard, your center, and I don't even know the other positions, they have to gel, they have to get along. Because you don't want a ball hog. Same thing in soccer. I would say the same thing in hockey. You don't want a puck hoarder. In soccer, you don't want a ball hugger. Because at the end of the day, the team needs to get that soccer ball or that hockey puck or that big basketball in a hoop, in a goal, or in the net, depending on how you want to call that in hockey. All of these aspects, all of these things all come back to how do we get the team to do something better. Now, take the baseball, for instance. Baseball, someone decided it would be a great idea to standardize it. This still goes back to support. When you figure a way for something to be streamlined or to be leaner, you try and find something that's common, something that is equal. Now in baseball, there were all types of different baseballs, and someone decided that this is the way the baseball should now look. And out of that, they were able to support the team. They were able to support the growth of the game. Within your own company, look at the different processes that you do. Look at the things that you do every single day. Something could be done better. Because making it better could make that end result stronger. Make that relationship with your customer stronger. Your customer is less likely to go look for alternatives if they have a strong relationship with you, if you are a good supporter of their business. The team dynamics also comes in there. If they realize that you're there to support them and to take care of them, the dynamic when things go wrong come out easier. Again, dynamics, communication, cooperation, collaboration. If they feel they are supported by you, they're going to communicate when something's wrong. They're not going to be all in a tizzy about it. They're going to come to you with a problem. They're going to communicate it. They're going to look to you to solve it for them, which you can do. Everybody can do that. Now, with the baseball and the standardization of the baseball, we ended up having issues with that because the ball was harder and people would have to catch it in their bare hands and they'd break knuckles and cause problems on their palms. So what did they do? Well, guess what? They created baseball gloves. And those baseball gloves were still there to support the team, to support the people and the guys from hurting their hands. Support and dynamics of the team are extremely important. Now, early gloves looked really funky all the way up to what they look like now. And it's just one of those things that gets better with time. Now, chemistry, right? Let's take the baseball, the glove, and chemistry. The relationship between those two has helped the game grow so much. First basemen have different mitts than anybody else on the field. Well, besides catchers. Okay? They look completely different. But they're there to support the team, the dynamics of the team, and the chemistry of the team. Look at your business. Look at whose roles are what and how they do those roles. Is there something you could do better? Because at the end of the day, you as the leader, you as the manager, you as the vice president, you as the director, you as the president and owner, this is not a bottom top solution. It is both ways, top to bottom, bottom to top. Again, the team, persons associated together in work or an activity. That's everybody. I hate to break it to you, those micromanagers are out there, to those people that just do, it's not my gig, not my job. Guess what? It is. And if you have the attitude like that, your company's not going to go anywhere. You're not going to go anywhere. The entire team is to be supportive of one another. The entire team are to have those dynamics that put you together. That team chemistry is so important. Now, occasionally you will hire somebody in that doesn't have that chemistry. Try to find that right chemistry on the front end. Involve your team in the interview process, in the review process. That way, when that new hire comes in, everybody can get along. Baseball again. Chemistry. Well, guess what? Occasionally, you can be traded. You can be sent to another team in the middle of a season. Why? Because those are the rules. I don't make the rules. Those are the rules. But when you bring somebody, let's say you trade for a pitcher, because your starting rotation is suffering. Now, typically in Major League Baseball, you have a rotation of 5 pitchers. But again, one of them might be struggling. You're going to try and help them out. But at the end of the day, you need to win the pennant to get to the World Series, to win the World Series. That's your goal. So you might trade an individual out and get a new one. But you got to make sure that new guy coming in feels like it's part of the team, is acknowledged by the team, received by the team, and gets along with the team. All that is vital, even in your own business. If you're going through growing pains and you need to shift around people in departments because you're growing and you have a need in a certain department, but yet you know you need to move somebody quickly to service your customers, but you might not be able to hire fast enough for that. Looking within is very important also. At the end of the day, those are the things you need to do. You need to look at them. You need to look at your whole organization from top to bottom. We just got done with the Super Bowl, and it was a great one. And the Kansas City Chiefs won the game, which was very fun. But it was not really their game till that third quarter. They stepped up. They supported each other. They had great communication, and they had great team chemistry. Being a Bills fan, I was glad to see one record fall, in a way, that Buffalo had. Previous Super Bowls, the Bills had the longest field goal in history on the books. But guess what? We went on to lose the game. Not so for Mr. Harrison. He hit the longest field goal in NFL history in a Super Bowl. Congratulations, sir. But the other part of that is we had 2 of those happen in the same game. From a spectator standpoint, that is just outstandingly awesome. But it takes a team. It takes team support, team dynamics, and it takes team chemistry. If you are the one driving your team, it's your responsibility to make sure those, in my book, those 4 bullet points are all met. You should take inventory of that each day. That's all that I have for today. Shout out corner. So I had to go with this one because, again, we're talking about communication, collaboration, and just how to build your team based on those types of activities. This one's unique because I'm going to talk about newspapers. Yes, I am here doing a podcast, video, voice, the internet, but newspapers. The oldest direct written news sheets were circulated widely in Venice in 1566. These were weekly news sheets that were full of information about wars and politics, specifically in Italy and the European nations. The first printed newspapers were published weekly in Germany in 1605. Typically, they were censored by the government, which we get, because that's how that time period was. It's the 1600s, right? Not everybody was equal. It was more the class system than normal society that we now know. Especially in France, these were reported mostly on foreign wars and in current situations. Now, here in the United States, which wasn't the United States, Boston and Philadelphia had a lot of periodicals with it. That's part of the way that our patriotism, our ability to spread the word and then have the American Revolution was through periodicals and through newspapers. By the 1830s, high-speed presses were then introduced into it, where they could print thousands of papers cheaply and at a lower cost. Now, again, it's wild, it's crazy, I know, but newspapers, gotta love it. Quote of the week corner. Every day is a new opportunity. You can build on yesterday's success or put its failures behind you and start again. That is the way life is. With a new game every day, and that is the way baseball is. Guys, old guy, he's no longer with us. That was a quote by Bob Feller. He was a pitcher for 18 years. Played for the Cleveland Indians. Okay, I guess I gotta be PC, the Guardians. But think about that. Think about, just extract just a little bit of his quote. That is the way life is, with a new game every day. Well, guess what? Life is new every day. Every day is a new day. What happened yesterday doesn't matter because today's a new day. Strive to make today the best day that you have and that you can provide to your family, to your friends, and to your coworkers. At the end of that day, as long as your best effort is put forth, guess what? Tomorrow's a new day. You can put more effort in and make tomorrow better than today. I hope everybody has a great week. Thank you for watching or listening. Please click the subscribe button below or follow me here on YouTube or in LinkedIn. Have a great and wonderful week. God bless.